我而家住緊嘅呢個城市開恩茲就位於大堡礁旁邊嘅近岸，佢係唯一可以從外太空肉眼可以見到嘅巨型生物結構。
Then they will start, like
to flourish.
Yeah, flourish again.
Exactly. Just to take the frames down. I'm in the water here, my buddy's there, there's someone there, we'll catch it. You can't do it like that. It's going to go down too quickly.
I'm getting, I cannot say that. OLD word.
Excuse me.
Above 30 degrees, the algae start to lose their ability to convert solar energy. The very light a coral needs for growth becomes poisonous.
今日好開心啊！卒之攞到佢哋嘅 permission 啊，我好高興啊！今日好高興。前嗰輪呢，我訪問咗個朋友，我哋都知道佢係玩潛水，但我唔知佢做咩喎。原來呢，佢係幫助呢個大堡礁咧復甦嘅，因為我哋2020年之前呢係喺墨爾本嘅，咁但係嗰度因為我先生抵受唔到嗰度太凍。太大風，咁所以就物色一個比較和暖嘅地方咧，過去嗰邊生活。咁初有諗過印尼啊、馬來西亞，後尾咧因為疫情咧開始有疫情嘅關係咧，就開始有啲擔憂。咁啊諗下，澳洲嘅上端其實係熱帶嚟嘅喎，咁我哋點解唔諗下咧？咁就當時咧就考慮離開恩茲。嗰陣時就做咗少少嘅即係揾下啲資料啦。咁似乎全球暖化令海水溫度上升，超級颱風以巨浪破壞珊瑚，而一種以珊瑚為主食嘅海星數量嘅增加，對珊瑚礁造成巨大嘅破壞。另外，巨型郵輪漏油、過度捕魚、過度旅遊，似乎大堡礁嘅未來唔係咁樂觀。我今次訪問呢個朋友呢，知道一個消息，就係大堡礁雖然面對持續嘅氣候變化、種種嘅不利因素，但係因為澳洲政府積極參與干預，鼓勵研究機構、學校、志願者、原住民、社會大眾參與拯救行動，仍然得到一啲階段性嘅成果。咁我所以呢，就請佢呢嚟去分享下佢喺佢嘅工作裏頭呢係點樣去幫助佢哋啦。另外有啲乜嘢有趣嘅故事啊咁樣。咁對於我嚟講咧，完全係唔識呢個海洋世界，尤其是潛水嘅世界。咁就覺得真係我自己本身都係好尊重、好感恩呢一啲工作人員，無論佢哋係科學家，抑或係專業嘅生物學家，抑或係義工。因為我感覺咧，就係如果冇咗任何一個呢一個活化翻呢個珊瑚礁嘅任務咧，係好難達成嘅。所以我話咧，我對佢嘅工作表示好大嘅感恩。因為喺海水裏頭嘅工作咧，唔係講笑，佢哋嗰個水嘅壓力啊，同埋咧係水啦，同海洋嘅生物裏頭啦，同埋一般嘅意外咧都有機會發生，其實都比較危險嘅。有水嘅，有鹽水嘅葉啦，有紫外線嘅照射啦，其實變咗就係對佢嘅身體都係有好大嘅傷害。咁佢嘅所有嘅努力同犧牲咧，其實佢唔係單止淨係一得。譬如講佢一個人，佢好有限能力啊，係咪？佢可能係服務緊一個堡礁，雖然佢係到處去。譬如打個比方講，佢只係服侍呢堆堡礁，但係如果缺乏咗呢一個人，每一個人嘅每一堆咧，整個堡礁冇辦法可以活化。好感激呢一啲志願者同埋科學家佢哋嘅努力。澳洲政府好着重自然環境保護，75年成立咗大堡礁海洋公園管理局，72年投放巨額資金興建臨海澳洲海洋科學研究所同 James Cook 大學 昆士蘭大學同埋澳洲國立大學等大學合作，仲有參與麻省理工學院國際科學技術倡議計劃嘅學生或者教授，亦都嚟呢度交流。合作嘅重點係創新整合科研、先進科技同珊瑚恢復等嘅實際應用，推行教育計劃同知識共享，共同資助博士後研究生同埋博士研究生，重點緩解珊瑚白化、海洋生物多樣性同埋水質改善等課程，為珊瑚生態系統恢復原力同埋氣候適應嘅解決方案。加上喺大量熱心人員同埋義工嘅協助之下，做出咗了不起嘅貢獻。佢哋並且仲將傳統原住民知識同現代海洋科學結合，呢啲夥伴關係旨在加強文化能力，並促進珊瑚礁保護工作，成為管理複雜環境挑戰嘅典範。我而家住緊嘅呢個城市開恩茲，就位於大堡礁旁邊嘅近岸。開恩茲係進入呢個自然奇觀探索著名嘅門戶。大堡礁係由生物體組成嘅海洋生態系統，延綿2300多公里，係地球上最具標誌性嘅珊瑚礁系統。佢覆蓋大半個澳洲東北部海岸。更令人驚訝嘅係，佢係唯一可以從外太空肉眼可以見到嘅巨型生物結構。而家睇一睇我朋友嘅訪問。
Today, can I introduce my friend Alison?
Yeah.
She's been a volunteer worker in the Great Barrier Reef to help the reef regrow again.
Yeah.
You know, at that first time when you told me you were working volunteer to grow the babies and help the restoration of the reef, I was so excited. You know, I just can't wait to hear your amazing and exciting stories out there.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you, Alison.
I'm very blessed that you want to hear this. So,
of course, I respect your work.
Oh, thank you.
And I thank you very much for all your efforts to help the reef to be healthier again. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
Alison,
Yes.
can you tell me the amazing story? First start your voluntary work, 2018. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It really upset me to hear about the coral bleaching. All the different species of coral had died. It was just awful. It was just looking at white sand beds, all the colour faded. You'll only see the colour when it's a really bright sunny day. And, you know, with the coral bleaching, it just emphasised the white of the coral. You could just see it really before you even jumped off the boat into the water. Being a diver from my past jobs and also recreational diver, I saw a programme on the TV. It just showed scientists and marine biologists planting baby corals so the reef could flourish again. And I just wanted to have a part of that, so I volunteered.
What actually do you do to help baby coral babies?
Okay, so there's lots of different stages for volunteers. So obviously we have to grow the coral before they're transplanted. The first stage of this coral nurturing program was to grow coral polyps, like really tiny pieces of coral, different types of coral, different species of coral. First phase was doing that in nurseries. Once the coral polyps were thriving in the nurseries, when that was healthy, then they were just transplanted onto rock boulders or sand beds. And
then they will start, you know, like
to flourish.
Yeah, flourish again.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. So like all the baby coral, the coral polyps, they were grown on frames in nurseries, a little bit like greenhouses. And when they were ready, when they had grown to fruition, and it takes about 3 to 4 years, which has been successful.
Yeah. How do you transfer them in the ocean from their nursery home to the sandbag?
The coral polyps, there's so many samples, and they're attached to big aluminium frames.
So many
It's a very sturdy frame.
Sturdy.
It's very sturdy, but not too heavy because we have to take that down with us. It's structured not to sort of like overbalance, tilt. We can just take it down as it is and lower the little coral polyps that are on the frames. Just do it very slowly and very gently. So yeah, that came from the nursery where they were growing.
That's amazing,
Isn't it? Yeah, I
I've
know.
never seen these before.
I know, neither had I. Just to take the frames down, it's like backward roll with the frame because you can't drop it. Yeah, you can't drop it. It's no good just saying, well, I'm in the water here, my buddy's there, there's someone there, you know, we'll catch it. You can't do it like that. And if you just drop it in the water, it's going to go down too quickly. It's sort of like Christmas tree, they're still attached, all the little ornaments. I know, I love it. Some of the nurseries are at Fitzroy Island, and they're on the frames, it's sort of like on the island. It's so awesome, you can just walk around these frames. It looks like, I don't know what it looks like. It looks like a frame where you're like trying to dry fish on it. Yeah, that's right. I always say that to tourists, they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, you know, it's like smoked fish. I'm just going to take some.
Do you have any photo with those baby on the frame?
Okay, so this is the frame where the coral is about to be transplanted. You can just see how beautiful the coral polyps are. So once we have the coral lowered down on the frames, we just gently remove them. You can just see that's just on like really sturdy, it's just like a light wire just to keep it in place. It's a little bit like, it looks like a Christmas ornament, doesn't it, hanging from a Christmas tree. Just to be very gentle, as I said, like even like lowering it into the water. It has to be really good conditions on the reef. We want good visibility, and obviously not a windy day. We don't want the corals swaying.
It's the wind will make a big wave.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the actual structure that we have. You can see different types of species of coral. When I said we plant them on the sand bed and we can't dig a hole in the sand. So this is a different frame from the one that I just showed you. The one I showed you was just transporting the coral down into the position that the scientists, marine biologists have chosen. So in this situation, the actual trays, they have like small legs. I don't know if you can see that. Looks like a bed frame, and that's positioned over the sand beds. Because the ones I showed you, those were the little tiny coral polyps in their infancy. They were so tiny, not only in size but in colour, because as I said, it takes about 3 to 4 years to actually grow these tiny coral polyps. For them to flourish in the actual ocean conditions after being planted, get to this stage, it's absolutely breathtaking.
Yes, breathtaking.
Volunteers, what we do, then we go down with a whiteboard and a pen and a tape measure, and we measure the length and the dimensions. And sometimes we just take like little clippings from the coral samples and we take them back up onto the boat, and we just want to see, you know, how they've progressed. If there's anything different, are they flourishing since they've been transplanted? When you're on the Great Barrier Reef, you know, even if you just look down, you should be able to see coral if it's not too deep. If it's just 5 meters, you know, you can see turtles as well. What was happening, too many day boats were going to the same reef, and it was just ridiculous. We were getting about 10 day boats. You could get anything from 100 to 400 passengers a day. It was just breaking down the marine park. And the reef is protected by the National World Heritage Marine Park. What's interesting now, lots of day boats have taken interest where they actually moor their boats on charter trips. They have like a coral teaching program You know, you can go for your dive and you can go for your snorkeling. They want to show you progress of the corals because some of these frames have actually been planted at the specific sites where the day boats go. So this is like really fabulous for the tourists to see the coral flourishing. So where the day boats go, they have like allocated reefs at different sites. Where we have different day boats on the reef, it doesn't damage any of the coral, the position exactly. So even when you're snorkeling, you know, you're snorkeling above the coral frame. Even, I wouldn't say diving because, you know, if you're snorkeling, it'll only be shallow depth of about 3 to 5 meters. So even though the day boats might rotate at that particular reef mooring, it still won't damage the nursery frames. It will still protect the coral while the coral's growing up and flourishes. So when you see the structures on the seabed, you know, it's a bit of a wow factor as well for like all the passengers on the boat, not just like international visitors, but domestic visitors as well. It's amazing just to see it flourish from something like that, you know, just like a tiny little polyp from the nursery to something this size. And then, you know, the frames will be like adjusted accordingly as the coral is growing up in height and width.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and when it reaches the size it should be, that's when they're just like completely removed away from the frame and
will return to nature.
And can return to nature. Now it's really like, you know, it's rejuvenated, it's like propagated. The colours have come back. You can see if you're privileged to get a window seat on an aircraft or even like a helicopter ride. They do scenic helicopter tours over the reef. Then you can still see that on a really clear, sunny day. You can just see this beautiful turquoise. Absolutely amazing. If you see turquoise, you know the reef is alive.
It's like an
coral colours. It's like an art piece. Aboriginal painting, when they draw the story of Dreamtime, and all the different colours and all the little dots as well. Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah. And this was just like...
What's the feeling for under the water when you see the alive corals?
I love it. It's a place of beauty. Absolutely. All the different colours of coral, they're so vibrant. You know, you can just have like different plates of coral on the lunar calendar. It happens usually October or November. It's the reproduction of coral and it's 4 days after the full moon. And it happens in the evening. With the coral warming, the temperature of the ocean has to be really hot because when the coral baby eggs are released, it's all synchronized in one spurt. Explosion, that's the word I'm looking for, explosion. It's incredible how the coral, how the whole reef comes alive with like little baby corals. It's like going into the universe and seeing all these like little twinkly planets. It's just so wonderful just to see that. When it does happen, I go down with experienced photographers because they have the great big lighting strobes because, you know, they want to capture all the videography and pictures. It's just amazing. I can't wait. I'm hoping it's going to be soon.
I wish I can, you know, I could be there to feel that. I think it's a wonder world.
No, it is. And, you know, Mother Nature, God love her, a few years ago, we went down and we were down there till about 2 in the morning. As we were making our ascent, the corals started to reproduce. There were like plates and plates and plates of tiny little coral polyps just exploding, all synchronizing with staghorn coral as well. They were all synchronizing, all the little eggs exploding together. It was absolutely amazing, and even the fish were there, beautiful.
If you have that music around, then it will be perfect.
Yeah.
You know,
I know. Sometimes, you know, you think from a symphony orchestra, you just can imagine, you know, beautiful. I am privileged. For any diver, even if you're not a certified diver, you can go down with a diver. Go down, Mandy. I'll go down with you.
Oh, no.
Maybe next year we'll go and do it.
Yeah, like, well, I need to have the courage to, first of all, learn to dive.
No, you don't need a certificate. No, you can go down as an introductory diver. You can do that.
But I'm getting, I cannot say that OLD word.
Excuse me. If your health is good, and you know you're not scared of going underwater, and your ears can pop, then you're good to go down with a diver. And with the coral reproduction, it's not deep. It's a maximum of like 15 to 18 meters deep.
But I've never dived before.
No, but it doesn't matter. No, you would love it.
Okay, I'll try. You feel lonely down there sometimes?
Yeah, I might be lonely, but if it's a reef I'm familiar with, you just have to know your location on that particular reef. Yeah, I know where everything should be, and not to get lost.
But do you dive normally in pairs?
Yeah, by Queensland law, you have to have a buddy. That's what they're called, like to dive in pairs is like a dive buddy. So like if there's a malfunction with your tank or you're running out of oxygen, you need your buddy next to you so you can take air from your buddy.
So safe for both.
For safety numbers 4 2. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have scary stories?
These are true stories. With my diving, I've been privileged to dive a lot of reefs on the Great Barrier Reef. And the Coral Sea is a very, very deep, deep reef where all the bullhead sharks, tiger sharks, aggressive sharks, they all come out. I really do love sharks. I've had them come really close to me.
Do you stay in the cage for shark watching?
Not here. We don't have cages, not on the Great Barrier Reef. When we do the shark feed, basically we go down and it's like the way how it's all structured without damaging the coral. They're like big rock boulders, and the skipper of the boat calls it an amphitheatre. So it's like, ladies and gentlemen, get all your dive gear on. We're going to see a lovely show. We're going to watch all the sharks get fed. So we go down, we go down, we go down. This is pretty deep actually. It could be 65 metres, 75 metres. I found somewhere really great on the boulders. So we just kneel and yeah, it's awesome. We take a big dustbin down, big blue tuna heads.
You mean you kneel in front of the sharks?
Yeah, we do. But as soon as the rope is released on the dustbin lid, and all the fish butts and fish heads are floating around, all of a sudden the sharks are everywhere. You know, like where we're kneeling as well, they come through, swim through caves. Well, after they've had a feed, then we can actually swim with them. I did have one shark, it was really aggressive. After it had the feed, it was like biting on the anchor, the chain, but then it came for me. My dive buddy had a tripod and the shark like literally went straight for the tripod, and then it turned and looked at me. It was going to go straight for my arm. So yeah, you've got to have your wits about you. Yeah, no, I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know I had a really narrow escape. Why do divers take a knife down? If the sharks is close, they might want to go for your arm. There's no good with the... Oh yeah, when they're like crunching on the chain, and sometimes they're like crunching on the coral because they try to get rid of some of like tuna heads in their mouth. You do get a lot of shark teeth that fall out, and I've collected quite a lot. I've made quite a few necklaces. So you don't need to go to the night markets in Cairns.
I never knew that their teeth were come.
Yeah, their teeth, because they have 500 teeth in their mouth. I don't know how many rows, but I don't want to get that close.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, but they do that after the shark feed, after they've eaten. I suppose it's a bit like flossing. They like to crunch on the coral.
And I would like to know if there is any stories with the diving experience, like malfunction in your...
Oh, right. I was swimming over this rock boulder. My foot, it was all blood coming out everywhere. My leg was all blood. The reason behind it was a triggerfish, but in November they nest, and it didn't like me invading his nest. It was probably about this size.
Very small.
Yeah, small. Not a juvenile. This would have been the female. The breeding season, but they're part of the piranhas that you get in the Amazon, and the teeth are like fish hooks, and it just sunk its teeth into my foot. I couldn't get away because, with triggerfish, they follow you vertically, they follow you horizontally. They will not go away, they just want to bite you. I couldn't get rid of it, so I'm going back up to the top and it's following me. But that's not the end of the story. I was just sucking in salt water and I was like, huh? So that was a malfunction on my tank. So I was just trying to figure out what to do. I wanted to get my buddy to take air from my buddy's tank, but my buddy was thinking I was okay. It was about 75 meters, so taking me about 5 minutes to reach my bottom deck, the actual bottom deck. You have to decompress because you don't want your lungs to get any blood clots. But I had no time because of this little fish. Yeah.
So what did you do?
Well, because I didn't want to get this blood clot. You know, you can call it the bends that happens if it's really serious. Even like, it doesn't matter what the reason is, if you can't have your safety stop, you know, for 5 minutes just to decompress. I've known other divers, unfortunately, it's like you have to little bubbles of water as you're making your emergency ascent to the surface, and then luckily when I was back on the boat, I just sort of like lay down for about 5 minutes.
Very lucky that you knew
about diving. But that's the thing with diving, you've got to have like safety. But yeah, it's all good. Thank you, Mandy, for taking such an interest.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison, for being my guest to tell all these lovely stories. 究竟海水暖化點會令珊瑚白化呢？搜集資料嘅過程，我發覺呢件事幾有趣。
Animal, plant, or mineral? Coral is a bizarre mix of all three. An upside-down jellyfish called a polyp that embeds plant cells in its flesh and builds solar power cities from limestone. To survive, coral needs a key partner, algae. Microscopic single-celled algae of the genus Symbiodinium. Coral takes the algae from the water to live symbiotically inside its own cells. That's how the polyp gets its colour. It's a great relationship. The algae, or symbionts, receive shelter and carbon dioxide from their host. In return, the coral gets most of its nutrition from sugars that the algae make through photosynthesis. But there's a catch. This solar-powered partnership depends on temperature to work. So what happens when water warms up? Over a week, QUT researcher Brett Lewis increased the water temperature by 4 degrees to peak at 32 degrees Celsius. After 24 hours, this is what he saw.
It's really violent. It's much more violent than we expected.
Mushroom corals, a large solitary type that don't build reefs, expelled their algal symbionts with repeated convulsions known as pulsed inflation.
Some of the largest expansions we've seen were 340% the size of the actual original tissue.
As clouds of algae are pumped into the water, the coral loses its colour and becomes pale. Above 30 degrees, the algae start to lose their ability to convert solar energy. That energy has to go somewhere and ends up creating reactive forms of oxygen, like peroxide in bleach, inside the coral cells. the very light a coral needs for growth becomes poisonous.
So if we look here at normal healthy tissue and then compare that to the bleached tissue, all the symbionts are gone. You're not seeing any of the red cells within the tissue. The tissue is really thin and there's not so much fluorescence actually in the coral tissue that's left.
Once the health of the coral is compromised, bacteria and other microbes cause infections like this.
This lesion will move, up to 2 to 5 millimetres a day. In some areas, it can be seen to move centimetres a day. And so some corals that have been infected with these lesions will be dead within weeks.
The main aim is to enhance the tolerance of corals to environmental stress, and mostly stress related to climate change.
They want to create supercorals with super symbionts that can tolerate higher temperatures without bleaching. This assisted evolution, as they call it, is Leela Chakravarti's PhD project.
We are taking these algae and we're exposing them to higher temperatures over a number of generations. So it's the same as natural selection, but we're doing it at a much faster pace so that we can get them to evolve in short time periods.
It takes only 150 quick generations for the algae to evolve the ability to grow faster and bleach less when the temperature goes up by 4 degrees. The next step is to get them into the coral.
So here is a coral recruit, glowing green, and these little red dots are actually the symbiodinium that we've added to the water. And after a few days, you can actually start to see that the coral has taken up these symbiodinium cells.
What, it just absorbs them?
So what it does is it eats them, and it recognises them as being symbiodinium, so they aren't digested, and then they're taken into the coral tissue where they live.
How cool is that?
Very cool.
We're not actually using any mechanisms that do not occur naturally. We're just trying to speed up those natural processes of evolution.
多謝各位科學家嘅努力，但係大堡礁能唔能夠存活落去，都要睇全球暖化能唔能夠慢落嚟，俾佢哋有啲時間去進化、去適應。希望我哋每一個人都幫下手，令佢哋可以存活落去。我哋呢邊嘅遊客疫情之後又多返起嚟啦，有時間你都嚟大堡礁睇下。澳洲人話大堡礁係上帝送俾佢哋嘅禮物，未嚟過大堡礁就等於未見過澳洲。我做完呢條片先至有深深嘅體會喎。喺26年前，我喺呢度坐玻璃船去睇珊瑚，遲一啲我諗我會再去一次，我估感覺會好唔一樣。其次，我想同年青人講，嚟呢邊進修海洋生物學啊！呢度有呢門學術嘅代表性學府㗎，喺咁靚嘅大堡礁之間，同埋有頂尖科學家嘅帶領之下學習，真係冇辜負到青春㗎。希望你哋喜歡呢條片，祝各位身心愉快，身體健康。多謝收睇。